Well, Treaty Principles Bill, as I said, Janine Hayward's extraordinary submission yesterday to the Select Committee. But obviously the Waitangi tribe, and she said yesterday, listen, it shouldn't be for elected representatives of Parliament to determine what the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi should be. That should be left to the courts and to the Waitangi Tribunal. Well, and the Waitangi Tribunal, as you would have heard in my introductory comments, has been pretty well engineered politically, and its appointments. I think Willie Jackson confessed as such in interviews with me last year on the platform. So the new Māori Development Minister, Tama Potaka, has put his stamp on the Waitangi Tribunal. Not a lot of people realise how many tribunal members there are. I think there are 20 plus, actually. And I've never quite understood why you need so many, but there you go. Or indeed why there's such a vast bureaucracy to support the Waitangi Tribunal. Well, one of those who was not reappointed was the immediate past president of the Maori Women's Welfare League, a storied institution in this country, it has to be said, and one that's played a prominent and a progressive but also very important role in Maori women's rights issues and provided a unique viewpoint over the years. And for the past 6 years, she was a member of the Waitangi Tribunal. She, along with Professor Linda Smith, Professor Rawinia Higgins, Professor Tom Roa, and others have not been reappointed by Tama Potaka, but there have been 8, I think, new appointments made by Tama Potaka as he seeks to, revitalise, rejuvenate, certainly refresh, it has to be said, the Waitangi Tribunal. I'm delighted to welcome onto the show former Waitangi Tribunal member Prue Kapua, and she joins us now. Prue, welcome to the show. Happy New Year to you.
Kia ora, Michael. Happy New Year to you as well.
Listen, you weren't very happy about not being reappointed, but is there a period of time that tribunal members spend? Is there a maximum or a period of time that you're allowed to serve?
No, there isn't a maximum time. There's a 3-year, the warrants are for 3 years and can be renewed. So there's some that have been there for a while, some for a shorter period of time. So there isn't, if the Minister wishes to make that something going forward to limit the time, then, that's easy enough to do, I guess, in terms of amending the legislation.
So you must have been appointed, reversing, about 2018, 2019, were you?
Mm-hmm. That's right, yes, I was.
And that would have been appointed, the Minister would have been Willie Jackson?
No, the Minister was Nanaia Mahuta.
Oh, okay, all right. And Willie must have taken over that role from her later on, because last year he was saying that he'd appointed, I think the Maori caucus and the Labour Party had a significant, and you'd expect that, a significant input into the appointments that were made. Does it help to be aligned to the party of the day to get an appointment?
I don't think that that's an issue at the end of the day. The legislation's pretty clear. You have to, have people who've got some knowledge and some understanding of the issues that are coming before the tribunal. And, we've got to be realistic here. The tribunal here hears claims from Māori. So, that's the only jurisdiction that the tribunal has. It's for Māori to lodge claims where they consider either rules, regulations, policies of the Crown are going to prejudicially affect them. And those are the matters that come before the tribunal.
Yes, because originally when it was set up in, 1975, it was pretty much to look at historical issues, and then obviously had its orbit put back to 1840 to really look at historical issues. But now, as you know...
it was never quite historical. It was to look at contemporary. We have to be... Shane Jones has kind of muddied the waters a little bit about this. In actual fact, the original task in 1975 was only to look at contemporary claims. It was only right. Issues that were coming through. It was in 1984, 86, I think, where it was taken back to historical claims back to 1840.
Yep.
So the original intent of the tribunal was to, I guess, be a body that looked at legislation or policies that were before the government of the day that may have some effect on Māori. So that was the original intent, and certainly the historical became the main focus, and that's been the basis of many of the treaty settlements that have gone through.
There is a perception amongst, well, I don't know if Maori or non-Maori, but certainly in many Pākehā and conservative Pākehā, that the tribunal has extended its brief and become almost or sought to play a role of almost a quasi Supreme Court, saying you can do that, you can't do that. Do you think that's a fair or justifiable criticism?
I think it's a pretty ignorant criticism, actually. To be fair, the tribunal doesn't have any power. The tribunal can make reports, they can make recommendations. It's entirely up to the government of the day to determine whether they take on board some or part or any, or reject entirely the recommendations of the tribunal. So the tribunal is inquisitorial. It's a commission of inquiry. It goes through a process of hearing evidence from both claimants and from the Crown, and it writes a report and it comes out with its recommendations. Now, as we know, governments haven't been particularly fond of tribunal recommendations, and that's why the tribunal doesn't have the power to talk about it being a quasi Supreme Court is a nonsense, because at the end of the day there is no power for the tribunal.
No, but you have sought to comment on legislation currently before the House. For example, it might be the Maori Health Authority, it might be the Treaty Principles Bill, legislation that is democratically introduced into Parliament. You have played a prominent role in commenting upon that, have you not?
Well, we haven't, because we have no jurisdiction over bills.
No, it hasn't stopped you doing an investigation. Come on, and making a report and saying that that's wrong.
Michael, you need to be very clear here. When a policy is introduced, as it was with the Treaty Principles Bill, as it was when the proposal to disestablish Te Aka Whai Ora, when that comes in as a policy, prior to it being a bill, because the moment it goes into being a bill, which is what happened with the Te Aka Whai Ora, the Māori Health Authority, the minute it went in as a bill and the House received the bill, the tribunal had no jurisdiction. So there was no hearing in relation to...
But that didn't stop you casting a commentary upon what you considered the bill to be a good or a bad thing.
We didn't cast a commentary. We reported on what we had received by the time we had lost the jurisdiction. That's just a matter of fact. It
is a matter of fact. But, you're playing with words. You do have a yeah, but you do. You are saying to me that the Waitangi Tribunal didn't have a view on these issues. It had a view. It made sure it got those views out before that legislation was introduced into House, and those views were widely disseminated through the media and other sources. Yes.
I think we need to be clear here. There had been a health inquiry that had suggested, as part of that, well before the Māori Health Authority was established, that suggested there should be a separate Māori authority, or that it raised that as one as the Simpson report did. I mean, both of them raised them as options. So there was a lot of writing around that and why that was a suitable way to address inequities for Māori in health. The issue of the actual disestablishment of Te Aka Whai Ora was nothing more than the reflection of the claims that had been lodged, and that was put into the public domain. The tribunal didn't make a particular position on that, except to express, I guess, when people have an expectation that they're going to be heard on a matter that they've raised, the advice that was given by the Crown was that the bill would be introduced at some later date. It was introduced earlier, and that stopped any further action. So I think the tribunal expressed a view about here they had got all established, ready to have this 2-day hearing, that couldn't go ahead because the day before the bill was introduced. I mean, that was the sum total of what happened over that. But you have to go back to the original report, which talked about not exactly the mechanism that was put in place under the pay order legislation, but looking at some options for how you would address Māori health inequities.